Welcome to the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay. This is your positive path for spiritual living.
What a blessing. So this year, perhaps more than usual, I find myself looking back a bit. I teach people not to live in the past, but I have to say this has been a very, very challenging year for at least two people that I know. One of them is moi, and the other one is my mother, who has taken up residency down the street a bit at the Miami Jewish Health Systems, making the adjustment into living in an assisted living nursing facility. The year was challenging because many of you may recall that on May 7th, she was admitted to Mount Sinai for emergency abdominal surgery. And the whole summer was a series of trips in and out of hospitals, rehab centers, and back home for yet just a few days at a time. Very trying year, and a year in which normally I would say, I don't think I could take much more of this, let alone her. But I so admire her spirit and her faith and her attitude through it all. She is, by the way, going to be a guest at Unity on the Bay for the first time in almost a year on Christmas Eve. So if you can be here, I'm sure she would love that. But it got me thinking about the real meaning of Christmas. It's wonderful that we celebrate the birth of Christ 2,000 years ago. It's wonderful that we gather together in homes and that we exchange gifts and all the festivities and the wonderful music of the season. This morning I want to share with you what I believe are 4 Christmas gifts. And these are gifts that can be opened any time of the year, for truly, Christmas is not exclusive to December 25th. Christmas is an event that takes place every day that we choose to allow it to take place within our own mind, our own heart, and our own consciousness. These 4 gifts, when practiced and realized, result in the birth of the awareness of the Christ in every human being. So as we explore these gifts briefly this morning, consider how you might explore them during these few days left before Christmas morning arrives, and also every day of the new year. The first gift, in a word, is innocence. Now, for the vast majority of us, we have been raised in a culture, we have been given a conditioning since the time we arrived on the planet that says that we are guilty, that there are aspects of ourselves that have been unworthy and that are undeserving. We have done something wrong, though as I've often said, we can't really remember completely what it was, but it was so bad that it has convicted us to a life of living as hell-bound sinners. Now, most of us in a Unity church would not accept the idea of ourselves as a hell-bound sinner, but we just might accept the idea of ourselves as being guilty as charged by a conditioning system that has malfunctioned for countless millennia. So I'm asking you this morning to look back at your life over the last week, over the last month, over the last year, and find out those particular events where you might be harboring a sense of guilt. Because somehow you didn't do enough, or you weren't enough. You didn't show up in the right way. Or how you might be holding others as being guilty for the same reasons. I had many, many occasions when I would retire at home of an evening after being with my mom through one of the many traumas that we experienced throughout this year, and I would feel like somehow I should have done more. As a good son, I should have been more. I should have been able to show up. I should have been able to make things right. But you know, my friends, the reality is this, and I've told you many times, everything in your life is happening in exactly the right way at precisely the right time, regardless of your judgment to the contrary. And what that means is that even though you don't think you showed up in full measure, even though you might feel guilty because of a conditioning system that doesn't work for you and never will, you nonetheless have to realize whatever went down because it had to go down. If you were a part of it and you don't feel good about that, let it go. It doesn't mean that you have to repeat the occurrence, but realize that the presence of God is always bestowing gifts upon you. And those gifts can sometimes be most plentifully found in the experiences where we don't think we did good enough. And this morning would be a wonderful morning for you to let that guilt go, because you know what? That guilt doesn't do anybody one single ounce of good. All it does is bring you down. So let's accept the Christmas gift of our innocence and get on with life. The next gift, in a word, is wonder. There were many, many times when I found myself wanting to bring the past onto the present moment as I was caring to my mother's needs. We would get a diagnosis from the doctor. Oftentimes, these were fatalistic diagnoses. They were ones that would make me very, very heavy, and yet I realized that every moment that I was spending with her was a fresh moment. It wasn't necessary for me to bring my past experiences and cover the quality of the present moment, because no matter what was going to happen to her or to me through this ordeal, every time I was able to release past experiences from covering the exquisite nature of the moment that we were in right there, I experienced a sacred and holy moment. Many of those moments are the most precious that I have ever experienced with this woman, and I've had many precious moments. I've also had a few very challenging ones with her, but many precious moments. So anytime that we can keep ourselves from bringing past experiences, and the mind loves to do that. Here's something happening right now. We love to go back and make comparisons to historical events and situations and lay them over the present moment. It darkens that moment, and it keeps you from being able to see the gift that God has for you right now in that moment. Every single moment is a gift, regardless of your human judgment about that moment. The next gift, in 2 words, is that of well-being. A Course in Miracles tells us that we are always at rest in God. But as you well know, if our attention is fixated on the world of time and space and events and particulars outside of us, it doesn't feel very restful at all. In fact, it seems quite restless. And what this means is that you and I this Christmas have to further master the art of not being compelled by the exterior events in our lives out here. Because this is a drama that's going on out here, my friends. Ultimately, it is illusory in nature. And anytime it gets very intense on you, it is actually gifting you with the invitation to go deeper within yourself, to literally close your eyes to the activities and the events that are taking place outside of you and go deeper into the center of your being, because that's the space, that's the kingdom of God, that's the place in which you realize you're at rest. The fictitious character that you've created out here that's running through all these dramas every day is not your real self. And every one of us is about the business of mastering or remembering our true nature, which is this Christ perfection within. And while Jesus was an excellent demonstrator and manifester of that presence, his only and greatest gift to each one of us is to follow in his footsteps and believe more in the ultimate reality that is within us than the exterior reality that is without us. And finally, the gift of joy. The gift of joy is a sense of exuberance. The gift of joy is what you experience when you wake up in the morning and you feel so grateful and so alive and you can't really figure out why. If you can figure out why, I'll tell you it's not joy. Because joy never has a reason. Joy is your natural state of being. It's what you are when you accept and unwrap the first 3 gifts that we've just spoken of. Joy is what results when guilt is cleared, and I mean every ounce of guilt. My friends, I don't care what the world has told you, you are not guilty. You are created in the image and the likeness of God. And so am I, and so is every creature on the face of this planet, guiltless. When judgment is suspended, that is, we're not bringing past experience and laying judgment on the present moment, then you feel joy. It's the natural experience that follows the relief from guilt and the relief from judgment. And when ultimate reality is realized, and the ultimate reality, my friends, is that this Christmas is not nearly so much the birthday of somebody that lived more than 2,000 years ago. It is your birthday. It is your birthday. So I want to encourage you when you wake up on Christmas morning to look right in the mirror and allow the first 2 words you speak to yourself to be happy birthday. Because Jesus was trying to tell us something, my friends. He was trying to tell us that we're all one. And in our oneness, as he rose above all the trials and turmoils of time and space, so also is that our destiny. Now, you can wait until you perish away from this planet and think it's going to happen to you when you arrive at the pearly gates, or you can do it right now. You can do it right now in this moment. You can say, I will no longer declare myself guilty. I will no longer bring my own petty personal judgments to ruin every moment of my life. And I will remember who the heck I am. I am made in the image and the likeness of God. And I guarantee you, as you affirm that for yourself, you will begin then to see that reflected in others. You can spend the rest of your life out here trying to change your family, change your friends, change the human system as we see it. Or you can declare, this is my birthday, I'm the Christ. Wake up on Christmas morning, wish yourself a happy birthday, and have before you the greatest and grandest year of your eternal life. God bless you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay, a spiritual community located in Miami, Florida. Unity on the Bay is supported by the generosity of its community. If you'd like to make a donation or learn more about Unity on the Bay, please visit unityonthebay.org. You can also follow Unity on the Bay on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for even more positive spiritual inspiration. Until next time, thanks for listening and many blessings. Namaste.